All right, so, hello everyone. Peter, hi. So yeah, I just want to always document all my deals this year pretty much. And so basically,
another cat one?
Saying so a lot. No cats, if you guys watch the cat video. But it all started from networking, and one of the lawyers we deal with now who sponsors us in OREC recommended my name to some sellers, okay? So I didn't necessarily know them. I never networked with the sellers until I walked into their door pretty much, and it was a condo, corner unit condo. And so you know what I'm talking about, right? So, but I'm sitting there like this, and they said, okay, well, we got some other agents we got to talk to. I'm like, oh, I'm not used to actually interviewing for the positions half the time, but they're like, well, who else is doing it? Like, well, there was one agent before you, but he never showed. I'm like, that's how easy it is in this city. Like, you just show up. And there's one more after. Now, the poor guy after, the place was gorgeous. And he made like one comment of, we'll get our stager in here, which pissed off the sellers because the place was gorgeous. It's like, the stager's not going to do that much more. So then later that night, I get the listing. And one of their biggest complaints was they had it on the market before, and their agent, what they felt as sellers, did nothing, because we can take photos and we can put it on the MLS, but it's beyond, there's no attention on it. So what do? I get you to come out and we go take the video, right? Yeah. And then we pop down to Miami, and I'm getting photography done, and I'm spending a lot of time like pre-marketing the place. And I think that's very important. I hate rushing a listing. Oftentimes you have to in this city, but like I wanted to spend some time. We do the video, but I'm posting it on Instagram. And one of the girls in my office has an offer. She says, oh, can we go check this place out? We're in the building. I'm like, sure. I call the people, they go in, and she's got an offer for me right afterwards. So I was like, bam, getting this sold in Miami. And we get the deal done, and I got the top sale right now at $365 on this property. Top sale in the building. Yeah. And my sellers are pumped, but it's 5 days conditional. And at the end of 5 days, well, first of all, you did the video, and I'm like, hey, the video doesn't say sold. And at the end of 5 days, they say, we can't get the deal done. We didn't get financing. And I'm like, no. And I go to you, and you're like, yes, my video can hit the YouTube. And I'm like, we still would have used it, Peter, relax. And
it was a lot of editing.
He did a lot of work. So now I got to list the property because I was trying to sell it off market. So I go and list it, and we're getting a ton of action on the weekend, and we end up getting a $360 cash offer mid-Saturday afternoon. Gotcha. Yeah, like no conditions, like closing on a whatever date they picked. And it's like, okay. I said, can you, so they're bullying us a little bit now. I said, can you do $365 and we'll sign your deal? And the guy was stubborn, and he sat there. Oh, and I always forget this part. Okay, man, back up. I'm out, I get a lot of offers coming in, and the guy emails me, and it says $460. But I was dyslexic on it as much as he was, and I was just like, oh, and then my sellers are like, is this real? I'm like, yeah, it's real. So like I totally made a mistake here, because it was real, but remember, an offer's not as good. I need a check with it. Like, it's just a piece of paper at the time. And I called the agent just to make sure that maybe he did want to do this. And I go like, hey, just noticing your 460. He's like, did I put 460? And I'm like, he's like, I meant 360.
560.
Yeah, imagine that. So, okay, here's the roller coaster of my sellers. They couldn't sell it before. They hire me. I get an offer while I'm in Miami. It falls apart. It's doing this. They get a 460, which was just a typo. and I'm like, this 360. So a 360 comes in. Now, okay, they're like, Jeff, like we're down the roller coaster, up the roller coaster. I get another offer. It's 360 with conditions. Okay?
From someone else?
From someone else. Okay. Conditions for a week. And I'm like, all right, so I got a 360 cash and a 360 with conditions. There's one more girl, and she's like, I'm giving you an offer, I'm sending you an offer. And it's like 10 p.m. at night on Saturday, and the first offer started around lunch or something, or afternoon. $395 cash.
No way.
And I'm like, I'm the greatest agent ever. So good. Adam and I are driving home from Toronto, and I'm like, that's what it's all about. You use two offers, and you get the momentum going. And she's like, my guy just really wanted it. And we're like, here you go, you can have it. I go, can you give us the check in the morning? Because it's like 10 p.m. She's like, no problem, I got a showing, grab the check and give you the check. my brother calls in the morning. We got a problem. And I'm like, what? She called me. Her buyer's son has cancer in New York. He's flying to New York. He's not in the right headspace. Something's happened before with this, and it cost them like hundreds of thousands of dollars for this cancer treatment. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, can we close later? Like, can you close in August? Can you close in July? Can you close?
Yeah.
Like, what's gonna like make your headspace better? And they were out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my, now I gotta call my sellers.
Yeah.
Hey, remember that thing from 12 hours ago? It's dead. And they're like back down the roller coaster again.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh my God. So then I'm like, okay, I better call these other people. And I canceled my open houses, canceled showings, and never got the check. So then I'm like, call the other people back. And I had a feeling the 360 people who didn't even just come up to 365 and probably could have just had it were, excuse me, not even that interested at that point. So I call them and it's like, oh, I'll get a hold of my people. And they wanted another building or something. So I kind of knew like they were wishy-washy 360 people. I'm like, but then the other guy wanted it, but he had conditions. And he's like, he calls me, he says, we'll do 370. And then he calls me right back and he says, we'll do 370 if we're competing. And I got to tell him if he's competing or not.
Yeah.
So pretty much late at night, they were, the first 360 cash says, hey Jeff, we're out. So like within 24 hours, they didn't even want the place, which is so stupid. Like you waste everybody's time. So then I go back to the other people who were at the 370 if they were competing. And I was like, I'm still trying at the last minute to get more money for my sellers. And I'm like, hey, 365 and we'll get this done. And he's like, we can do that. So currently we're conditional at 365, but we started at 365 in Miami with the top sale in the building. Got this 460, which was a typo, back to 360, back to 395, back to 365, and hopefully it closes this Friday, or at least firms up this Friday. And just like absolutely insane with the way my poor sellers, and I legitimately yelled out like, I fucking hate this job. Like, poor sellers, like, holy crap. Like, you get a 395 within 12 hours, it's dead again. Like, what? Like, it's ridiculous. Like, but they're troopers. They're still in it. Because it's one thing for me to get the commission, but it's like these poor guys, like going up and down on this.
Yeah.
And then, but at the end of the day, they're still happy with 360, 365, 370 because it's literally 20 grand better than the rest of the building's ever gotten.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So they're just like, go work your magic, Jeff. So I sold the property 3 times already.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, that's an emotional roller coaster for them. So do you find it's like better to keep the sellers on with everything that's going, or
you got to, unfortunately, by like law, pretty much.
Oh, really? So you have to tell them everything.
Like, I was really hoping when she told me she wasn't going to drop off the check because the guy had the cancer, that we could have solved it. I'm like, okay, well, what if you can push the closing till May?
We'll
and then I wanted to be able to call my sellers and be like, okay, good news and bad news. Bad news is they didn't want to close because of this thing, but if we close in May, they'll do it. Yeah. Okay, like they might have just done that because the date wasn't important to my guys. But I wasn't able to do that, and you can't push an agent too hard. I had trusted this agent because they were a local agent. They've done a lot of deals in the city. So it's just really unfortunate because if it's an out-of-town agent, it would have been more risky to take that deal. But for a $30,000 12-hour risk, it's like, what do you do?
If you lock that down, that would have been crazy.
And it was, it's shitty for her, but whatever. So that was a crazy story of like how much negotiating had to happen for one deal. I'm still in the middle of it. Like, we're conditional right now. So that's it. So peace out.
War story.
Yeah.